Hello, and welcome to my final diet analysis. My name is Stephanie Camden, and this following presentation is going to be me analyzing my diet and also talking about some things I've learned this past semester. So to begin, this is a quick screenshot of my actual intakes versus recommended intakes report. And it goes over some of the macronutrients, micronutrients, things like that I should be intaking in my diet. So for the analysis, I was only absent in alcohol. I was low in calories, dietary fiber, carbohydrates, mono and polyunsaturated fats, water, vitamins A, C, D, E, the B vitamins, folate, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, zinc, and sodium. And then I was high in calories from fat, calories from saturated fat, protein, fat, and then regular saturated fat. Then this is a screenshot of my calorie and fat sources report. So according to that report, I consumed most of my calories as carbohydrates, and then the next most consumed was fats, and then protein. So the type of fat that I consumed the most was actually a type of fat that wasn't listed, but then of the ones listed, the most was saturated fat. And in my diet, I consumed mostly fat, starches, and lean meats. Then this is a quick screenshot of my energy balance report. And from that, it's pretty clear that my caloric intake was higher than my caloric expenditure. And then these charts are my daily calorie and macronutrient recommended intake report. So there's calories per day, fat per day, carbohydrates per day, and protein per day. And what I really like about these reports is that it's really easy to see whether you're within your goal, above your goal, or below your goal. So for my calories per day, I overconsumed my goal calories on day 1. I was beneath my goal calories on days 2 through 7. For my protein per day, I met but didn't exceed my goal by too much on days 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. And then I was beneath my goal on days 4 and 7. For my carbohydrates per day, I met but didn't exceed my goal by too much on days 1 and 5. And then I was beneath my goal on days 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. And then finally, for my fat per day, I overconsumed my goal fat on days 1, 2, and 6. And then I met but didn't exceed my goal by too much on days 3, 5, and 7. And then I was beneath my goal on day 4. Then this is my food list report. So it goes over what I ate each day, what the calories were, how much I had of it for days 1 through 7. And then it also gives a day average, a total for the week, and then an item average. So I met my calorie goal and didn't exceed it by too much on kind of none of the days. So I was either fairly over or I was fairly under. So I was fairly over my calorie goal on day 1, and then I was under it on days 2 through 7. Then this is my MyPlate report, and it kind of goes over my intake versus recommendation for grains, vegetables, fruits, dairy, protein, all that. So according to that report, I was under the recommended grain, fruit, and dairy amount. I was near the recommended vegetable amount, and then I was over the recommended protein amount. Then this is my meal assessment report. And according to this, I consumed most of my calories, protein, carbohydrates, and fat all at dinner and lunch. And this actually makes perfect sense because I truly don't eat breakfast that much. So it would make sense that pretty much everything is consumed at dinner and lunch. And really, it was pretty evenly split between dinner and lunch as well. Then this is my activity summary report. and it goes over every activity that I did for days 1 through 7, technically, but I only did activities on days 1 through 5. So in the system, before I began this process, I had to input a few things. So I had to input my gender, which is female, my age, which is 20 years, my height, which is 5 foot 6 inches, and my weight, which is around 145 pounds. So according to the system, my activity level was low active. And then it says for my weight change, I should lose about 2 pounds per week, I think. And then it said my BMI was 23.4. And then according to the system, it said that I should be intaking about 1,269 calories every day. I should be striving for an active activity level instead of a low active. And then I shouldn't exceed 2 pounds of weight loss per week. So my activity, I tried to run a mile, around 13 minutes per mile. That ends up being around 4 miles per hour every weekday, so Monday through Friday. And then I use the weekends as time off to relax. So my sedentary activities of daily living was about 2,048 calories. And then I generally expended more calories than I was intaking, but that is with the sedentary activities of living. I didn't actually burn enough active calories to be in a calorie deficit. So for the final analysis, to compare the initial to the final analysis, during the initial, I was absent in alcohol and caffeine. I was low in fiber, mono and polyunsaturated fat, water, vitamins A, C, D, E, the B vitamins, folate, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, and zinc. I was high in calories, calories from fat, calories from saturated fat, fat, saturated fat, and sodium. I was at the perfect amount for protein and carbohydrates. And then that compares to the final analysis because I was essentially low and high in pretty much the exact same things, except for the final analysis, I had caffeine added to my diet and I was also lower in calories. But I was still missing the important vitamins and nutrients in their full recommended amounts. So for the initial analysis, I was generally above or at the recommended number of calories. For the final analysis, my caloric intake was generally below or at the recommended amount. My carbohydrate intake for the initial analysis was above or at the recommended amount. And then for the final analysis, it was either above or at the recommended amount as well. My fat intake for the initial analysis was above or at the recommended amount, and it was also above or at the recommended amount for the final analysis. And then my protein intake for both the initial and the final was generally right around the recommended amount. So 3 foods that I consumed within this past week that were the highest in calories were a quarter pounder from McDonald's at 417 calories, a bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddle from McDonald's at around 449 calories, and a Starbucks iced chai tea latte that was 300 calories. These items really aren't daily items for me. I don't eat them every day, but they're also not completely rare. This wasn't completely out of the blue. I was consuming these items because I was not on campus. I was out of town and I was running errands and I needed to eat quickly. But if I ate these items every single day, I would have very detrimental effects on my health. So I noticed that I consumed less food on weekends than during the week, during both the initial and the final analysis. And I believe this is because I'm not going to class, so I'm not leaving my room and expending a lot of energy that would make me hungry. And then I also am not having the same opportunities to go eat. So my energy consumption is higher than my energy expenditure. And if this continues, I will gain weight because I won't be in the calorie deficit that I need to be in to lose weight. And then, so fast food was not as prevalent in my diet at the beginning of this semester, but it is slightly more prevalent now as Gilman is starting to get boring and maybe even a possibly bit worse. So when I do go out, it is usually McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, places like that. But to make these choices healthier, I could be ordering much healthier meals from these places, or possibly even going to slightly healthier restaurants that might cost a little bit more. So for a final grade with my activity and my eating, I would give myself about a B minus. There are some days when I'm eating super well, I'm exercising super well, and then there are also days where I'm not eating very well and I'm not exercising very well. So I plan to eat more fruits and vegetables and then also less saturated fats. So based on my BMI and my BMR, I'm not necessarily at any health risks. My BMI is still within that normal range, just on kind of the higher side because I'm at 23.4 and the high side of normal is like 25. So based on my diet, I need to decrease my fat intake immediately, or I could have some health problems begin to develop, like weight gain, heart problems, stuff like that. So after my biometric screening, I would really like to address my cholesterol levels. They're not dangerously high or anything like that, but it's high enough for it to be an issue to me. Heart disease runs in my family, so I really need to take my already kind of high levels for a 20-year-old and really try to change those now so that way they're not an issue when I get older. So I'm also a little bit unhappy with my BMI. I would really like to get it to go down. So after analyzing my diet and knowing these things that I want to change, I can see that I should be intaking less fats, especially the saturated ones. And to do that, I need to be eating more fruits and vegetables and then also eating out at restaurants less and making more homemade food. So to reduce this kind of unhealthy pattern, I could possibly get up earlier to eat breakfast instead of skipping it like I do now. So that way I'm not as hungry throughout the day. And then I also could plan out my day using like a planner app or just an actual planner. So that way I could see exactly when I have free time to maybe eat healthy, maybe cook a meal, or also to work out at an extended amount of time. So the main two things I would like to change about my life are my fat intake and then my activity level. I need to significantly lower my fat intake. And then I also need to raise my activity level. So I feel as though I should be doing more activity during the week so that way I can take that time off during the weekend. So instead of just going on a run, maybe I should go on a run and work out like with weights, or maybe even go on a longer run or do like a circuit or just something else every day. So then my top 10 list of the class of things that I learned, things that I won't forget, or things that surprised me were, I learned that folate is one of the most important nutrients during pregnancy. I do not think I'm going to forget the 3 macronutrients, which are fat, protein, and carbohydrates. And then the 2 micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. And then also water is one of the 6 important things we need for life. So I won't be forgetting the percentage ranges for fats, proteins, or carbohydrates because we've used them so much in this course. I learned the digestive processes of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins and thought they were extremely interesting between the differences. I was surprised that fruits and vegetables are actually carbohydrates. I didn't really expect that. I was also surprised that binge drinking is more than 4 drinks in one sitting. I learned that the promotion step of cancer is the longest phase. And then I won't be forgetting that apoptosis is programmed cell death because I learned it in this nutrition class and then also my anatomy class at the exact same time. I was surprised that our peak bone density is at 30 years old. I expected it to be much lower than that. And then I was also surprised to learn that toddlers actually need more fat than adults in their diets. Thank you for coming to my final diet analysis.